My name is Erin Smith, and I'm the editor here at Bladen Online. And this week we have a very special guest with us, Congressman Robert Pittenger. Welcome, Congressman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Always good to have a good conversation with you.
Thank you. We always enjoy having you. I know that this week y'all are getting ready to gear up to go back to Washington and roll up your sleeves, get down to work. I know we have the inauguration coming up, and I know there's a lot of issues on the table. So give us a little insight into what we can expect coming up.
Well, it's going to be very special. You know, this is a peaceful transfer of power. So special in America. As I travel around the globe, we are envied by the rest of the world. The world cherishes America. When I walk up those worn stone steps at the Capitol and I look at that dome every time I go vote, I never get over the fact of what we have in this country. The freedoms, the liberty, the opportunity that we have. And that's my job, is to help preserve that. So Friday will be a special day, a momentous day for our country as we embark on another 4 years of another leader and let him put his stamp on our history. I frankly am very encouraged. I believe that we need a fresh view of what we can do to help the lives of the American people. We're just growing right now at about 1% economic growth. That's a very slow economic growth that doesn't allow for real job creation, for people, for small businesses to create jobs, to expand this economy. So we're going to reduce the regulatory burden, we're going to reduce the tax burden. We need a fair tax code. We need one that's good for everybody, not just a bunch of big shots who have attorneys in Washington, D.C. Need a simpler code. You know, I always say our tax code is bigger than the Bible that has none of the good news. And we need to change that. So there's a lot of good reforms that we'll be involved in that I believe that we need to give President Trump his good chance to bring his reforms. He's a smart businessman, and I believe the people he's surrounded himself with are going to do a great job.
Well, Congressman, I know one of the issues in this past election was the Affordable Care Act, and I know the Republicans have been discussing a little bit, maybe either reforming it, repealing it, improving it. Tell us a little bit what your ideas are and what you expect to happen with the Affordable Care Act.
Well, we need a whole new delivery system. Right now it's government managed, government regulated. It's the government's health care program for the American people. We need an open market health care delivery system. We need competitive markets. We need for the private market to be able to compete for your business. And today they're restricted by going across state lines. We need for insurance companies to have the legal ability to cross state lines. There are hundreds of companies out there. We only, frankly, have one company in North Carolina that's really engaged today. So many are pulling out because it's not financially sustainable. The actuaries don't even work to allow the present health care to continue on the trajectory that it's on today. So we need to have these reforms. And these reforms are going to bring a better access to health care. You know, our premiums are escalating, our deductibles are increasing. It doesn't even really pay to have it. You don't even want to go to your primary care doctor sometimes. So what we will do was bring in needed reforms, to create competition, to allow individuals to band together, to buy in groups. Mm-hmm. You can buy down, you buy in groups, right. To provide a tax credit for individuals like you do, like businesses can do. Why can't an individual do that? So there's many benefits that we're going to have. Taking the litigation out. That creates about 30% of the tests that doctors have to perform to protect themselves against lawsuits. So that just increases the price of health care. So all these reforms, we believe, are going to create a model that will bring affordable health care to everyone.
Thank you, Congressman. Now, border security is another issue that was big with American voters, and I know also the threat of terrorism, sure, which is also something you're very interested in.
And they're tied together.
And so tell us a little bit about that. What sure, might we expect in the coming term?
Well, I chair our Congressional Task Force on Terrorism and Unconventional Warfare, so I spend a significant amount of my time doing what we can do to stop the terrorists. And I'm so glad that we have a president now who is willing to say, yes, there are Islamic terrorists out there that need to be defeated. We shouldn't be in denial that they exist. And our borders, securing our borders, frankly, is part of that, because our borders are 40% porous today in the South, where anyone could come across that border. We're seeing more and more Middle Easterns and Europeans come across our border. So they've got to be secured, and that will be part of what we do to protect this country. But frankly, we have sleeper cells in every state of the country. ISIS is a tremendous challenge. They are well funded. They have about $500 million of funding each year. So to the extent that we can stop their funding, and I spend a lot of my time on that, intercepting that money, and the way that they achieve getting the money. You know, they transport oil out of Iraq and out of Syria into Turkey and sell it in the black market. It's about 60% of the revenue. Well, we need to stop those convoys. We need to be able to have the commitment to do that. Frankly, our current president, Mr. Obama, wasn't willing to do it. He saw that perhaps there were some environmental problems that could happen. If we felt that way in World War II, we'd have lost to the Germans. So we need a serious commitment. And with that commitment to take out ISIS, we will then have the full pledge and support of our partners in the Gulf states and others around the world, which we do not really have today. They have not seen a country or commitment for our president to demonstrate the strength that we need to have and the commitment that we have to defeat ISIS. And that will be a change.
Also, economic growth is a concern of many, many voters. Tell us what you would like to see done to spur that. Yes, ma'am. Well, we have one of the weakest economies ever. The only economy since World War II that hasn't grown to 3% economic growth. He's the only president that does not achieve that. And it's as a result directly of the heavy regulatory burden on our economy and the tax burden. You know, when a corporation is paying the highest corporate tax rate of any country in the industrialized world, 35%, why do they want to be here? That's why they're moving overseas. That's why they have moved. And the regulatory burden, the impact of Obamacare, the cost. So while I don't like it, frankly, I haven't blamed some of these companies for going overseas. So reducing the regulatory burden, reducing the tax burden is going to enable expansion for business. This is exactly what happened in the 1980s. If you recall, in the 70s, we had 20% interest rates, high inflation, high unemployment, gas lines. And here came a guy named Ronald Reagan. What did he believe in? He said, cut the regulatory burden, cut the tax burden, and the economy took off. We were creating 300,000 and 400,000, 500,000 jobs a month. 1 month, 1 million jobs, growing at 6% economic growth. We're growing at 1% right now. That doesn't work. The average monthly new jobs from this administration has been 175,000 jobs a month. That's below the low end of the recovery in the 1980s. So we can do better. We're going to free up the American people. We're going to get the government out of the way and allow this economy to grow. Well, thank you, Congressman, for joining us today. It's always good to have you with Bladen Online. Well, I love coming out here. It's a privilege to be with you. And number one, call us, though, when you have a need. We're opening up an office here in Bladen County, in Elizabethton, in J. Cashwell. It will be here. We'll have office hours, and we're here to support you. So we'll be giving you those phone numbers and that information, and I'm sure they can provide that online. Thank you so much. And thank you, Congressman. And thank you for joining us at BladenOnline.com.